Hey everybody, this is Viccus. Welcome to the fourth, is it the fourth podcast? We have a little bit of an interesting, a little bit different topic for this one. We're going to be talking about just different characters in our history, different personalities that have inspired us or, left an impression on us. Just to, give us a chance to talk about the other members in the guild. So, with me, we have a pretty good group here this time. So we'll start the introductions with Lynne.
Hey everybody, it's Lynne. And this is Kiteera.
This is Viccus.
This is Radhasvi.
Shadar
and Zara.
Okay, well, just to sort of hand the torch off, Lynne, you're at the top of the list. I'll throw you out in the spotlight. Would you care to talk about anyone in particular?
There are a lot of characters that have crossed our paths that have left great impressions. But I'm going to actually talk about Zara and Viccus because they are my first impression of the guild. The first time I met with the Harbingers in RP in a cantina, of course, in a cantina, Viccus and Zara were there. And they left such a wonderful impression. Viccus, the guild leader, who I'm meeting for the first time, trashed. Zara, his apprentice, trashed. This was my first meeting with these guys, with anybody from the Harbingers in RP, and was completely not what I expected. Absolutely made me wonder what I had gotten myself into. But I'm glad I stayed. Glad that I just kind of went with the flow on that one, because it's been great ever since then. But I think that impression really, we have this thing for cantinas, and I should have just known right then that was going to be a big part of our guild life.
Very nice. There, I remember the night that you're talking about. That was, yeah, I could see how that would have left an interesting impression.
The night Zara killed the NPC.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
The dead alien on the couch.
Yeah, it's one of our favorite stories to retell. There are a few of our members that are connected to, some of our best memories, and it usually involves somebody being recruited. Lynne that was the first time Lynne ever hung out with us, and I guess she was sold. So glad we made that impression on her. And that's not the last time that sort of thing happened. I know Shadar was also recruited on a similar situation. I don't know if it was because of like how crazy we were being, or if it was just coincidence. But I just remember Shadar at the Dromancos Cantina, if my memory serves me right, messing with Jacco and Foxen, was it? Am I right, Shadar?
Yeah. Mainly Jacco.
Yeah, you were messing with Jacco, but Foxen and him back then had this sort of back and forth RP, and I just remember Shadar. The first time we ever met Shadar, this just random Twi'lek at the bar starts sort of antagonizing Jacco and getting Foxen just pissed off at him, and it was really funny to watch. And we were kind of sold on Shadar after that. Yeah, and Foxen is actually another, in my opinion, another unique character that we've had that I think would be a little bit less. We would be a little bit less Harbinger without. We have a few members that are like that. Foxen's one of the people that, when I think back at sort of our prime, when we were hanging out with the Scions on a regular basis, Foxen was one of those people who was kind of the core of that group that would always be on every night. And which actually leads to another of my probably my personal favorite, and I'm sorry to maybe embarrass you like this, but Radhasvi is probably one of my favorite characters.
I'd say he's pretty much everybody's favorite.
He's definitely way up on my list.
Well, thank you.
If you listen really closely, you can hear him blushing.
Yeah,
He turns purple.
How many colors can he turn?
I don't remember the first time we ever met. I don't remember the first impression that I have of him. I just remember it was sort of a gradual thing, because I probably dismissed him as an agent. They're typically uptight, they're typically kind of awkward, but he was just kind of this other degree of that once I met him more than once, and I quickly started seeing that he kind of takes it to another level, and it was really entertaining. And it has been really entertaining.
Well, thank you. I have some good memories of those earlier days on at Viking at the cantina, often shifting back and forth late at night between the Harbinger, that group of Harbingers that would be there, and any Scions who were there. And it definitely gave me a lot of practice developing my character and the degrees of awkwardness to which he could go. Those were very fun times.
Yeah, it's been pretty entertaining watching it develop, that's for sure. Lynne might agree with me when I say that one of the maybe unlikely personalities that kind of sticks out in my mind is in more than one way is Angermanu.
Oh yeah. He has
we haven't seen him around in a while. Yeah, he does.
The thing I like about his character is that he plays it so like enigmatic. It's like you really don't know anything about him, yet at the same time, that makes it a little more interesting. It's like you're, pretty like expecting like some big reveal down the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what is his deal? Isn't he some sort of time traveler or something? I heard some sort of strange backstory to him.
I think he hinted at that like in the thread, but I don't think he's like outright said like that's what he is.
He's never revealed it, and I do think that is something along the lines of what it is. I do know from talking to him and from reading his stories that he has some, he's looking for the one apprentice, the one that will be the apprentice, and he hasn't found that person yet. So we'll see if he ever does.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess he's in the right place for it. Sounds like he's looking for the Sith'ari as an apprentice.
How many apprentices does he have anyway? Because I know he has you, like, as Eventine. Who else does he have?
Shh, that's a secret.
Oh, sorry.
Technically, Eventine is Lynne's apprentice, but she went to Angramainu because she thought that he had a lot that she could learn from him. And they had just begun, and then, of course, real life, he's had to be offline for a while. So he used to have Phylast, but of course that has changed. And if I could get on the website right now, I'd tell you who all his apprentices are, but I can't.
I can.
Yeah, Phylast. Yeah, we should point out Jacco just got off work or something and has now joined us. Say hi, Jacco.
Hi, Jacco. Wait, damn.
So, Phylast.
Speaking of Phylast, there's a character. Angramainu did not know how to deal with Tiva, because she was giving him a lot of trouble. So he sent Phylast to deal with her. Told Phylast to just go teach her some respect. So Phylast is left on his own to decide how best to deal with Tiva. So he takes her out and makes her give up all of her armor, all of her weapons, and fight naked.
Sounds kinky.
Which Tiva just enjoys so much.
Woo!
Lynne, I know you want to talk about this person. And Jacco, you probably want to talk about this person too. Tika.
Oh, Tika.
How can you not like Tika?
I love Tika.
Let alone the Mia character, or the Maya character, sorry. The Tika character is someone that Jacco gets to interact with regularly.
Is insolent.
It's not just that, it's the fun behind it. Sure, she's insolent, but it's so much fun.
She's completely crazy. She will say and do anything. She used to be extremely insolent. She's much, much better now. But she's just so much fun because you never know what's going to come out of her mouth. If it is the weirdest, strangest, most odd thing you can think of, that's Tika.
I also like,
Yeah, for sure.
I also like this new like mad scientist slant that she's put on the character too.
And Radhasvi, I'm sure, has interactions with Tika and thoughts on Tika because she reports to him.
The idea of Tika reporting to Radhasvi is sort of it's a very fluid concept, but I do like Tika. I interact with a few of her characters, but the Tika character, the mad scientist, you gotta love it. I mean, it's infectious. Just the incident from the other night where we're trying to deal with this, with Zero, being kind of half possessed by a I don't know, a sort of sentient virus. But hey, trying to restrain him, and then it was just we're having a kai. Everyone's kind of trying to deal with it diplomatically. The next thing you know, Tika's trying to stuff him into a steel drum, is jumping up on top of it, like on his head, trying to force it down over him. And the next thing you know, we're all just kind of reduced to wailing on Zero until finally have to literally, my character of all people has to beat him, club him over the head, and literally step on him. But it's just that's the kind of thing that Tika brings to a situation.
Yeah, a couple of nights ago, Zara, kind of caught wind of what happened, and because like they're still you know, master apprentice. Like Zara was like giving her crap. It's like, you know what, like I appreciate what you're doing, like, you know, trying to, like, you know, better the Harbingers, you know, make us stronger, but please, for the love of God, don't do like these uncontrolled experiments on us. Like, you know, find some hobo or whatever.
Radhasvi, I've got to say, you said infectious, and that was so perfect. Because the other day, I was, as Jacco, I was talking to her about my legs, whatever, and we were going into her secret base, where there's robot zombies. And she just goes, ah, damn, the robot zombies are loose again. I have to go, what? So we're walking through, fighting them off, and we get to the machine that fixes me up, and she's outside playing a banjo when I get out of it.
Just a very unique character. That's that's another, I guess, another one of those characters that, Jacco, you weren't here for it. I said that we would be a little bit less Harbinger without.
I can see that.
But Shadar, you've been quiet. You do you have any characters that stick out in your mind?
Well, we mentioned a lot of them already. One of them I still remember, though, is Lokfa.
The Fa King.
Yeah. Yes, how can you forget the Fa King?
For go ahead and tell that story.
Oh, I think Lynne has that story for us.
And she's got to tell the whole story. I guess she's away at the moment. I will go ahead and tell what I remember of it. Lynne, well, actually, it started when Lokfa wrote a story while he was at work one day, and where there was this running joke throughout the short story where he kept referring to himself, you know, Lokfa, among his people, he is known as the Fa King. You know, he's the king. It's sort of like a play on words, obviously, but everyone would refer to him as Fa King. Well, at the very end, he refers to himself as Fa King Lokfa, and it was just this hilarious story in the end, and we laughed about it for a good couple of days. And at one point, Lynne, I guess she didn't.
Shush you.
You tell it.
So I was not thinking. I was not thinking at all about how it would sound. I was thinking he calls himself the Fa King, and I said, "Fucking Loke is awesome." But of course, when you say it fast, it's "fucking Loke is awesome," which sounds totally different. And of course, everybody had a great laugh out of that.
You know what I remember about Lokfa?
For months.
I remember he was the first person to sell my strongest drink to. And he sold it so well. Lokfa is this big-ass dude who comes up and orders 2 of these drinks. Just 2. And by the end of it, he passes out, just on the ground, so hard that it makes a rumble through the space station.
Yeah. You know, he rarely RP'd with us. And it's unfortunate, because the, like, 2 times that he did, it was really entertaining.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun when he did RP.
Yeah. And he was actually one of the people who helped me organize the meetings the way that I do. He was the guy who I would go to after the first and second and third meetings until I really got comfortable and be like, well, how did I do? You know? And he would kind of critique and be like, yeah, it was good. You stayed, on topic, and you did this and that or whatever. So he was actually a pretty strong support for me whenever I was first getting into the business.
I like your phrasing there, getting into the business. I like it.
Yeah. Lokfa was a very unique character as well. People, when you saw him, you knew exactly who he was. And one of those unmistakable tunes.
Well, I think one of the things I remember from him is remember the first Assassin games I was in, which was the second Assassin games. It was going on during the Rakghoul infestation, and there was a big pile of people standing there in the station, and he had to go AFK, so he figured he could hide in the middle of all these people, and his name had come up on the list, and so I got him. When he come back to the keyboard, he had actually scrolled back to see what had happened, and had seen I'd got him. This is like 10 minutes later after all this spam, and he starts sending me a text. He goes, "Damn it, how did you find me in that big pile of people?"
How did you not find him?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, there's all these skinny little people in this great big Lokfa in the middle.
Yeah. He's not here. The guy I want to talk about next. He's not here, but he should be here. Ragnarok. Ragnarok is also another very flavorful character that has added quite a bit to our little RP gatherings. He's our local sadist.
And the one character who's not an alcoholic. Woohoo!
Hey, Lynne's not an alcoholic.
He is.
Hey, Lynne's not an alcoholic.
You drink. He drinks water. He's hardcore, and there is history behind that. It's in his. He has some deep-seated issues and stuff, and which are probably linked to his love for hurting people.
So we have some pretty interesting people who came over from the Scions. I mean, we have Radhasvi, who's there are just so many things to love about that character because he's very, very tightly wound, and he's anything that's inappropriate is just very offensive to him. We have Kit the clone. Kit what is she? 3.0 now. Yep. That's a huge story in and of itself. Origda, who apparently really is a drunk. So we've got some pretty interesting characters there.
I was gonna say with Kit.
Yeah.
Just the 3 lives so far, but I have the feeling we're shooting for 9 here. Kit starts out as this little, never forget, on Hoth, meeting as to just recently joined the guild, very low-level character, joins us on Hoth and is just standing there freezing with a little Kiteera sickle, during this event that we had, and just remember Kit being such a trooper, the first Kit there, and then of course it's been a kind of tangled wild web since, but yeah.
I remember that I started feeding Kit clones to one of my monsters.
Jacco. This guy. I just thought of somebody. He's not actually in the Harbingers. He almost was, maybe, or something. You were talking to him a lot back in the Cantina days, but he's so distinct that I got to bring him up. Do you remember the guy that you called the coolest guy in the universe? He would show up at the Cantina.
I know who you're talking about. The classy fucker, right?
Yeah.
The guy who would come up with order like a glass of scotch, smoke a cigar, use the force to keep the smoke from going into everybody, and then he'd just put it out and walk away.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed we never got that guy, whoever that was.
I don't remember his name because it was like some alphabet name. It was pretty long. But he was definitely one of the more memorable characters, yeah. As soon as you started saying, oh, Jacco, you used to talk to him in the cantina a lot, I knew exactly who you were talking about.
I was going to say, Lynne mentioned Arigda, and I feel like you can't even talk about memorable characters without giving a nod to Nadezhdek and his little team, Nadezhdek's Angels there. Just the kind of unit cohesion that they have. This group of very, very honor-bound, they're all, kind of an honor-bound guard type of group, but as, they talk and with hand signals, and they just have this, it's like they're in their own little world. They work really effectively, but they're just out and they're doing their own thing and teaching self-defense classes, of course, on the side.
To hookers.
Hookers.
They teach self-defense
To
to
hookers?
prostitutes. Yeah.
I have to say,
And
we're
for
talking
that
about
alone, very sorry. I was going to say, for that alone, you gotta love that team. I mean, they teach self-defense to prostitutes.
That's memorable. But I know we mentioned him already, but Radhasvi. I don't know if he was talked about at length yet, but he's one of my favorite characters to interact with. No matter who I'm interacting with him with, it's always a great experience. Even if he hates my character and tries to kill me.
Yeah. We did talk about Radhasvi in some length before he arrived, and we probably made him blush once or twice already.
Damn.
I don't think that you mess with him quite as much as Shadar does, though. She probably messes with him more than any two people combined.
I don't know.
Yeah, when Radhasvi closes his eyes... Sorry, Jacco. I was gonna say, when Radhasvi closes his eyes, he sees Shadar. Like, that's like what keeps him awake at night.
I don't know. I made him almost pass out. That was fun.
What did you do to him?
You were there, Lynne. You were watching it happen.
It was so awful with Riza.
Oh, yeah. That was good stuff.
She's talking about functions.
You know who else is fun?
Yeah.
Zero. And we give this guy such a hard time, and every night, he has to die or get harmed in some way by one of us, or the night is not complete. And he takes it so well, and you gotta love him for just going with the flow with it.
I love the kid, but
He's our Kenny.
his character really does bring it on himself.
Oh, he does, but he's just kind of become, I hate to use the term whipping boy, but every night somebody wants to beat him up, kill him, stab him, shoot him. I don't know how many times he's been beaten in those ways. I like him.
You know, that is a perfect segue into our old whipping boy. The dude who started out as, like, being, the butt of every joke, but now is less of a butt of a joke. Jacco.
Jacob?
Yes, Jacco.
Oh, I have a story. I was like thinking about this for a while, and one character I miss who interacted with Jacco a lot is Caius, who was your former, well, not apprentice, but lieutenant, I guess you could say. And one memory that sticks out in my mind is when this is like back when Jacco was like in his his like spice addiction days, and I guess he was like tripping pretty hard, and he was at the cantina, and he started just like crouching, like hiding behind the counter, behind the bar, and he was like throwing grapes at Caius. I don't know if you remember this, Jacko.
I do. This was, Jacco was pretty damn drunk that night. He was crouched behind the bar pretending it was his fort.
You just gotta give a hand to Jacco. I mean, we had barely moved to the server, and we had people at Viking clamoring for Jake, asking where Jacco the bartender was. I mean, that alone just says something about this character as an institution in and of himself.
I remember before, we joined with the Harbingers, like, back at the Scions, we'd go out to the canteen, and I got so excited to see Jacco. I'm like, yay, my favorite bartender! But I think more recently, one of my favorite random things that you did, Jacco, was when you and who were you on at the time? I think you were on Eventine, Lynne. When you guys caught Amaya, and Jacco just randomly decided to start throwing grapes at her. I'm like, what? I just love the randomness that goes on with you, Jacco. Love it.
He's like a mini teacup. And speaking of kit and bars or cantinas, before the Scions and the Harbingers became one guild, there was one night with Kiteera and Radhasvi drunk at the bar, and it was one of the funniest things I've ever stood and watched. It was so hysterical. I believe they might have been hallucinating and literally falling down drunk. It was just too funny.
I don't think I was there for that. Was that the night where... That wasn't the night where we had all the drinks lined up and we started breaking glasses and saying, "Oh God, now we gotta pay for these." Was it that night?
Oh no, they had their own event that they had done, and they came to the cantina trashed and proceeded to get further trashed, I believe.
I remember that was that little cantina scene there. That was our second completely drunken night. The first one being the whole mess on Hutta together. It was us grieving over the death of one of our members, Aconia, and that cantina scene. I think I was like crying, laughing. It was so funny.
I just remember being hunkered down behind the bar, taking refuge from the onslaught, the supposed onslaught of holographic Twi'lek dancers, calling in backup on a comm that didn't work, and it ended with, I think, a whole Kiteera dancing not entirely clothed right in front of my face and me not caring.
Yeah, I remember I was sitting there dancing right in front of you, and Licia was saying such random stuff, and at one point Licia was like, he's dying, you need to give him mouth to mouth. And then Kit proceeded to try to do that. So yeah, those were good times. But yeah, Licia recording everything that I had to try to get her to delete later on.
Well, we've gone through quite a few members. I know Zara probably has quite a bit of uploading to do, so we might want to cut it short.
Well, in that case, there's one character we haven't talked about, according to Zara.
Okay.
And that is our fearless leader, unless I'm mistaken.
Well, actually, I forgot to tell you that, yeah, Lynne kind of brought up, like, Zara and Viccus, like, as a package, like, her first impressions of the Harbingers, but not Viccus in particular.
Well then. I have to say, Viccus is the only person I've seen successfully RP with himself numerous times. and not seem crazy.
He has very long, in-depth conversations all by himself.
And he did it last night too.
And then he turns around and loses his keys.
It seems perfectly
The
sane
conversations. For the listeners, they're not talking about vent conversations. I don't literally talk to myself.
I said RP with himself. And
But
not
yeah.
only that, but probably one of the few leaders of cults that just sits around getting drunk. And then drugging his subordinates with blue liquid that makes them hallucinate. That's Viccus.
Yeah. The referencing the conversations, talking to myself, that was for the listener. I was actually RPing that I was talking to Lynne, but Lynne wasn't around, and Jacco was a captain, and he was talking to someone else in the Dromancast cantina. And back then, the only council members, the entire council, was me, Rag, and Lynne. So the only people in character who Viccus can justify hanging out with are not available. So I can't be fraternizing with the regular members with him. So I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs, and yeah, I pull out a holo communicator and start RPing that I'm talking to Lynne, and but Jacco was. Anyone sitting around me was only hearing Viccus's half of the conversation, so they can only guess what Lynne is saying. And he was drunk, and he was drunk dialing Lynne and just going on about it, and then started yelling at the bartender, like Jacco said.
And then there was the time that he threatened to wage war on whatever worlds grew cherries.
Yeah.
Where did cherries
Yeah,
come
Viccus
from?
has like this.
I think they're from Alderaan. Can we blow it up? Is that necessary?
Yeah, any world that has cherries, he wants to just destroy it, like glass the planet. And that's this little quirk that I gave him one night when Jacco and I were RPing. And he put a cherry in my drink or something when he was bartending. And I just played it like I hated that. Like, there's a cherry in my freaking drink. And I just like threw it or something, and then he was like, whoa, you don't like cherries? And then I just decided to run with that and make that a thing of his.
Viccus and Jacco, best friends.
One thing I like about Viccus too is it's not brought up, and I don't think it's even made clear to like a lot of members. But Viccus, he has issues with touching people.
He
and
does.
people handing him things.
Yeah, especially
People don't really get to see it because nobody tries to touch Viccus. But if they did, I'm supposed to RP it like I don't like being touched. Actually, I hugged Jacco last night. I forgot about that. Anyway, just pretend that didn't happen. But he's supposed to not like touching people.
Jacco and Viccus are best friends. That's different.
Yeah, and where that actually comes from is a long time ago when we were talking about, what movie actor would represent our character best. If, we were to make a live-action movie about the Harbingers, what actor would play your part? And we had some really good answers for all of that. No, not Burt Reynolds. But one of the things that Jacco said was for Viccus, the personality would be Robert Downey Jr., which I agreed with. That's actually pretty accurate. The Tony Stark Robert Downey Jr. And so as an homage to that, I gave him the whole "I don't like touching people" thing of Tony Stark. That's sort of an homage to that. Not sort of. It's exactly an homage to that. I took it from that as a tribute. So yeah, there's little quirks that I guess not a whole lot of people get to see, just because the situations never come up. People don't touch him, and people don't give him cherries. If they did, they'd find out.
I give him cherries.
Well, okay, so I suppose that's it. Been pretty interesting talking about all these people. Some stories that I completely forgotten about.
Force babies.
And Lynne. Lynne. Has anyone talked about Lynne?
I don't think we've talked about it.
I don't think we need to talk
Lynne,
about Lynne.
did you think you could get away? Lynne, just real quick, because there's not a lot. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to be said about Lynne because she doesn't show a lot of the character, and which that's actually really mainly what I wanted to point out is that Lynne is one of the more mysterious characters. People know her, but they don't really know her. There's a lot to it, but she's really only showed like 30% of her character.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point with Lynne, is it takes a lot to get to the point where she trusts you enough to open up to you. But one thing that we all know she loves to do is slap people if they step out of line. If they just slap people.
Yep. And there's that video. Police officer beats abusive teacher. That's the slap I picture Lynne doing.
Totally it.
Nothing will ever beat that one slap. I think it's the same night when you're talking about earlier, Lynne, where you met me and Viccus for the first time. And there was this one player who was kind of creepy. I mean, he was just kind of like staring at us, but he wouldn't interact. I mean, he was like obviously listening to our conversation. And he would sort of like inch his way like, you know, a little bit closer and closer and closer. I mean, you could tell that this kid was like, I guess, you know, it's maybe his first time like RPing, so he's nervous, shy, whatever. And then Lynne just comes like right up to him and just like slaps him out of nowhere. I mean, I don't know about Viccus, but my jaw was just like to the floor at that point. And she was like, said something, it's like, you would address like Viccus by his like proper title and all this stuff.
We were in that cantina, we were in the cantina, again, for hours, and Zara's right, this guy, he wouldn't come over and just talk to him, and I was talking to him in whispers, and told him it was okay to come over and join us, and he wouldn't do it. He just kept inching his way over, and he came over and he said something to Viccus, and Lynne just jumped up and hauled off and just hit him because his address to Viccus wasn't appropriate.
I can't explain how many times I've been hit by Lynne.
So essentially, you asked this guy, kept telling him, come on, it's fine, come on over, and as soon as he came over, you smacked him.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like you baited him in.
That's our Lynne.
Yep.
Do you remember when Jacob got promoted?
Yeah. I told everybody, because we had a lot of new members, and they didn't know any better. So I just thought it would be funny to screw with them, and I said that, yeah, we have this tradition. Everybody goes by and slaps Jacco.
And everybody lined up in this huge line and just walked up and slapped Jacob.
Yeah, you guys are great friends.
Yep.
Awesome.
I love you, man.
I have the best friends in the whole universe. Yay.
It's kind of my fault. because I slapped him first, and then Viccus thought it'd be fun to mess with him, and then we just had this whole line of like a dozen Harbingers waiting to slap him.
You guys missed your chance to do that at my general promotion. You could have done it.
Yeah, we could have. Well, I guess we should wrap it up. Thank you for listening. This is the 4th podcast, unless I'm mistaken. So, I guess we'll start our goodbyes with Lynne.
Ciao.
Jacco, you're next.
Oh, I'm next? Okay. I just got here. I don't know how this new order thing goes. Bye, guys.
Force baby.
Force babies.
and this is Kiteera saying goodbye.
Bye, Kiteera.
This is Viccus. Later.
Alright, this is Radhasvi. Thanks for listening.
Shadar, I'm out.
And this is Zara. Take it easy.
Didn't we introduce ourselves in the beginning?
I thought you were Jacco. Later.
Did they forget who we are? Who's watching this that forgot who we are?
Okay, so yeah, it's I'm going to stop this now, and I'll probably hopefully post